Welcome to Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives, with your host, Singh. This is where leadership meets purpose, presence, and passion. In today's fast-paced, high-pressure world, we face a leadership crisis. Too often, teams are led by managers who lack empathy, clarity, and vision, leaving individuals uninspired, disconnected, and undervalued. But it doesn't have to be this way. Great leadership isn't born, it's built. The end game: empower your leadership, inspire the world. Every week, join me, your host Singh, as we tackle the gaps in leadership and life coaching head on, learning how mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and compassion can redefine success. This isn't just another podcast, it's a mission to fill the void left by ineffective leadership. And it's not just about leadership in business. Life coaching for leaders and new executives is at the heart of this journey. Ready to rise above the noise and lead with clarity, purpose, and impact? Join a global movement dedicated to reshaping the future of leadership one mindful moment at a time. Let's begin.
Let me ask you something. What would your team look like if they felt truly safe? Safe to speak up, safe to show up fully, and yes, safe to fail. Now, I know the word failure probably gives you that twinge in the pit of your stomach. You know that feeling? But here's the thing: when your team feels safe to mess up, they don't just avoid burnout, they thrive. They become stronger, smarter, and way more innovative. Think about it. How many times has someone on your team held back a brilliant idea because they were scared of being wrong? And how many times silent Zoom meetings have you sat through wondering, why is no one speaking? It's not because they don't have ideas, it's because they don't feel safe. Welcome back to another show of Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives on the Transformation Network. I am your host, Singh. Today, we are diving into what I believe is one of the most important tools in leadership: psychological safety. As always, I will walk you through a simple four-step framework I call SAFE, a mindful practice that will help you create trust, openness, and collaboration in your team, even in the middle of high pressure situations. This isn't about being nice, cuddling your team. It's about creating the conditions where innovation and resilience can thrive. So grab your coffee. All right, just take a deep breath and let's talk about how how you can make the team unstoppable. All right. First, let's dive into the big question. Why is psychological safety such a game changer for your team? Now, here's the truth. It's not just a nice to have, a fluffy HR buzzword. Psychological safety is the foundation of high performing teams. And I'm not just saying that because it sounds good on motivational poster. There's actually science to back this up. Now, Harvard professor Amy Edmondson, the queen of psychological safety research, found that it's the number one predictor of team success. Why? Because it's the magic ingredient that allows people to admit mistakes, share ideas, and collaborate without fear of being judged or punished. See, when people feel safe, they stop holding back. And Google's its famous Project Aristotle. Yes, even Google got philosophical about teamwork, found the same thing. After analyzing hundreds of teams, they discovered that the ones with the highest psychological safety did not just perform well, they crushed every time. They innovated faster, they solved problems more effectively, and handled challenges like pros. Now, let's be real for a second. Does your team feel safe? Or are they holding back ideas that could solve problems, innovate products, or I don't know, maybe prevent the next workplace disaster? And if you don't know the answer to that, it might be time for a reality check. So let me break down when something we all experienced: a karaoke night. When you are with your closest friends, what happens? You are up there belting out Bohemian Rhapsody at top of your lungs, doing air guitar during the solos, and absolutely murdering those high tones, even if you sound like a cat in a blender. Why? Because you feel safe. You know your friends are not judging you. They are probably cheering on you, with you, maybe even harmonizing terribly with you. But now imagine that karaoke, that sound with strangers. Different vibe, right? You will barely humming along, praying no one hands you the mic, and suddenly you are very invested in the drink menu. That's the difference psychological safety makes. It's the thing that takes you from holding back to going all in. And let me tell you, your team is no different. Without psychological safety, they are sitting in that karaoke bar, holding back their best ideas, their boldest moves, and their most creative solutions because they're afraid of being judged or shut down. And here's why this matters more than ever. We are in a workplace landscape where everything feels like it's in a flux. Hybrid work, layoffs, AI tools like ChatGPT creeping into workflows. It's no wonder people are feeling uncertain and hesitant to speak up. But here's the thing, if your team doesn't feel safe right now, they are not going to innovate. They are not going to collaborate. They are going to quietly do minimum and hope no one notices. That's not a team. That's a group of people trying not to get fired. So here is the big idea. Your team's success starts with trust. And trust starts with creating a space where people feel safe to mess up, speak up, and show up fully. If you can do that, you can create an environment where someone can say, hey, I think we could do this better without worrying that their head is on the chopping block. There you go. You have unlocked the key to innovate and resilience. So think about it. What's one thing you can do this week to make your team feel safer? Maybe it's just asking an open ended question instead of making assumptions. Maybe it's admitting your own mistake to show that messing up is okay. Whatever, whatever it is, start small, but start somewhere because your team feels safe. And when they feel safe, they stop holding back. And when they stop holding back, that's where the magic happens. So here's the $1 million question. How do we actually build psychological safety? It's not like you can slap a safe space poster on the break room, right, and call it a day. That's where safe framework comes in. This think about this as your go-to in the moment toolkit for creating trust, openness, collaboration in your team. Whether your team has navigating a heated conflict, brainstorming the next big idea, or just trying to get through a meeting that isn't another episode of Silent Zoom Theater. Now, these first steps will help you foster psychological safety in real time. And I have used this time and again in my career, even during the ransomware attack. Yes, it's simple enough that anyone on your team can use it, not just you. So the first is slow down the system. That's the S. Safety starts with pace. And here's the deal, when things get tense, our brains go into flight or fight mode. Simple biology. And when your team is in that state, the last thing they are going to do is share openly or take risks. That's why slowing down is key. Before jumping into a tough conversation, take 3 collective breaths with your team. Yes, I know it sounds like woo woo, but trust me, it works. Silent isn't awkward, it's very powerful. It gives everyone's nervous system a chance to reset. Ponder this, your team just had Project Bomb. Spectacularly. Everyone's tense, and you are about to jump into a post mortem meeting. Now, instead of diving straight into the blame game, you say, before we start, let's take 3 deep breaths together. You will be amazed at how quickly the energy shift. Instead of who screwed up, the why becomes how do we move forward? It's a game changer. Like I said, I have used this during a full blown ransomware attack that we came out of in less than 30 hours without paying ransom, right? So the next is A, ask, don't assume. Now, here's a hard truth, curiosity heals faster than certainty. See, when we are stressed, our brain loves to fill in gaps with assumptions. But 9 times out of 10, those assumptions are wrong and they kill trust. So instead of jumping to a conclusion, ask the open ended question: can you help me understand more? Or what was going on for you in that moment? Now, let me ask instead of assuming. Let's say Susan from accounting missed a big deadline. Your first reaction might be, Susan's slacking game. But instead, you say, hey, Susan, can you walk me through what happened? Turns out Susan wasn't slacking. She was dealing with a mountain of last minute requests from other teams. See, by asking instead of assuming, you have not only avoided unfair judgment, but you have also shown Susan that her perspective matters. Now, that's how you build trust. Now, for the F, feel first, speak second, right? Recognizing your own emotional state before responding is huge. Why? Because if you are bringing defensive, frustrated, or anxious energy into a conversation, guess what? Your team is going to mirror that right back to you. So here is a simple practice. Before you respond, pause and name what you're feeling, either privately or aloud, right? For example, I'm noticing I feel a little frustrated right now. I was completely frustrated and angry when we had the cyber attack, right? But then I had to check in. Let me check in with what I'm feeling first. If you are in a heated situation, try a grounding gesture, like placing your hand on your chest or taking a deep breath. It signals to your body and your team that you are regulating your emotions. You are midway through a meeting and someone drops a comment. That feels like personal jab. So instead of snapping back, you pause and say, I'm feeling a little defensive right now. Let me think about this. Now, that moment of self awareness, it diffuses tension and sets the tone for a more productive conversation. Finally, E, encourage expression. Now, this is where psychological safety really takes root. When every voice is heard, the quieter team members, the ones who are hesitant to speak up, they often have the most valuable insights. Use the invitations like, I would love to hear from folks who haven't spoken yet. Is there anything that feels unsaid or unfinished? Everyone's voice matters here. Now, you are in a brainstorm session and three people have dominated the conversation. Instead of letting it ride, you pause and say, I want to make sure we hear from everyone. Does anyone who hasn't spoken yet have thoughts to share? See, that simple invitation, it could uncover your next big idea or at very least make someone feel valued and seen. Now, here is the best part about SAFE framework. It's not just for you as a leader, it's for everyone on your team. Imagine what happens when your team sees you slowing down, asking thoughtful questions, creating space for every voice. They will start doing it too. And that triple effect, that's what transforms team culture. So here is my challenge. Pick one step from SAFE and try it this week. Maybe it's taking those 3 breaths before a tough meeting. Maybe it's asking, can you help me understand more? Whatever it is, start small, but start somewhere. Because when your team feels safe to mess up, speak up, and show up fully, that's where the magic happens. All right, let's take a moment to put this into action. Wherever you are, at your desk, in your car, or maybe, I don't know, sit sneaking in a wall between back to back meetings, pause and practice safe framework with me. This isn't one of those woo woo meditate under crystal pyramid moments. This is practical, grounded, and designed to help you reset and reconnect with your teams. I share something every week out of the collection of 260 different micro practices associated with every individual emotionary reaction a person can have in a personal or professional life. So let's do this together. So, first, slow down the system. Safety starts with pace. See, when tension rises, our body goes into overdrive, heart racing, mind spinning. And that little voice in your head going, oh, great, here comes another disaster. Sounds familiar? So let's interrupt that spiral. Wherever you are, take 3 deep breaths with me. Ready? Inhale, hold, exhale. Inhale, hold, exhale. One more. Inhale, hold, exhale. See, that's your nervous system saying, thanks, thanks, I needed that. Let's slow down together before we solve anything. Use this the next time your team's energy feels off. Mid meeting, just say, let's pause and breath for a moment. Watch how quickly it shifts the vibes from chaos to calm. And no, it's not weird, it's leadership. Next, ask. Don't assume. Because let's be honest, we all love jumping to conclusion. Hey, I always say in my very first interaction with anyone in my professional life, I have failed myself to not develop any of those psychic powers that most leaders assume they have. So I will not know what's in your head unless I'm told, and I don't want you to assume anything that you have not heard from me. Right? So think about someone you have been frustrated with recently. Maybe they just missed a deadline, give you a vague response, or send you an email so cryptic you had to call in a code breaker. A quick meeting is never a quick meeting, right? So instead of assuming they're lazy, disengaged, or plotting your downfall, ask yourself, what might be they experiencing right now? Imagine, imagine your teammate drops the ball on a big project. Instead of thinking, they don't care, try this and ask, hey, can you walk me through what happened? You might find out they were juggling 5 other priorities to dealing with personal stuff. Asking creates space for understanding, but then it also creates trust. Now, for the tough one, feel first, speak second. All through my conversation, when it comes to mindful practice, there is 2 simple things I say. You don't have to pull up yoga mats. You don't have to go to a retreat. You don't have to do any of those funny postures. 2 simple things: the breath and the observer. The breath allows you to come out of fight and flight mode and asks your prefrontal cortex, your logical brain, to get engaged. And when that happens, you need to become an observer. Don't judge, become an observer. Before you respond to someone, check in with yourself. Name what you are feeling privately or aloud. Why? Because if you are feeling defensive, frustrated, or anxious, that energy is going to spill all over the confirmation, like a coffee on a white t shirt. Take a second and ask what I am feeling right now. Let me check in with what I'm feeling first. A quick reminder, this is where emotional vocabulary is very important. One of the earlier podcasts I talked about how to expand your emotional vocabulary. Now, if you are in the middle of a heated moment, try this. Literally place a hand on your chest or take a deep breath. That 1 second pause can save you from saying something you will regret and create space for a more productive response. One of my mentors used to tell me almost 20 years back, don't write anything in an email that you would not want published on front of a national newspaper. Well, the time has changed 20 years later. The time and speed has changed. And I say, don't speak out anything that you will regret being put on social media, right? Finally, encourage expression. Now, this is where psychological safety really comes alive. Now, think about somebody on your team who's been quiet lately. Maybe they have been zoning out in meetings, or skipping opportunities to contribute. Now, instead of assuming they have checked out, invite them to share. See, I said everyone's voice matters here. When we had the ransomware attack, one of our developers, who was the quietest of the lot, actually had the groundbreaking idea that allowed us to come out of ransomware attack in less than 30 hours. So in your next meeting, try saying, I would love to hear from folks who haven't spoken yet. Or is there anything that feels unsaid or unfinished? That's a big statement. That's a big statement. All it takes is one invitation to unlock a brilliant idea, or just remind someone that their voice matters. So, which step feels hardest for you and why? Is it slowing down when everything feels urgent? Is it asking questions instead of making assumptions? Or maybe it's that moment of checking in with your feelings before you speak. And all these are biologically happening because you, by default, are on autopilot. Now, take a moment after this episode to reflect or journal on this, because here's the thing: growth isn't about being perfect, it's about being intentional. So, let's bring this to life with a real world example. I want to tell you about a team I worked with recently. They were stuck in what I like to call feedback purgatory, right? You know, that type meetings where everyone nods, smiles, avoids eye contact because no one wants to rock the boat. It was like watching a bad improv show where everyone was too afraid to say yes. And instead, it was more like, no, thanks. I'm just here to survive this meeting without getting called on. You see the problem? No one felt safe enough to share honest feedback. And without feedback, the team wasn't growing. It was just spinning its wheels. I'm sure it sounds familiar. So we introduced the SAFE framework, starting with the first step: slow down the system. And here is what we did. Before every feedback session, the team started with three collective breaths. Yes, three simple three breaths. It's simple, right? But here's the magic of it. Those three breaths shifted the energy in the room. Instead of jumping straight into the defensive mode, everyone had a moment to reset. It sounds small. We added this mantra: we are here to help each of you grow and not to tear each other down. It sounds small, but set the stone. It reminded everyone that feedback wasn't an attack, it was a way to build each other. And let me tell you, the first time we did this, you could feel the tension start to melt out. People weren't bracing for impact anymore, they were leaning in. Literally, you could see their posture from sitting tight with hands folded to actually sitting forward. The next step was ask, don't assume. This was a game changer because let's face it, we are all guilty of making assumption. Bias is introduced in human, just like breath. But instead of piling on, we encourage the team to ask questions. And guess what? The team members opened. They explained that they have been overwhelmed and they didn't know how to ask for help. That one moment of curiosity completely changed the dynamic. Instead of resentment, the team responded with empathy. They brainstormed ways to support each other, and suddenly there was no disengagement. Now, let's talk about feel first, speak second. Now, this one takes practice, but man, does it work? During one particularly heated meeting, someone blurted out, "This project is a disaster." And you could feel the air get sucked out of the room. It was like, oh boy, here we go. But instead of escalating, the team led paused. and said, I'm noticing I'm feeling frustrated right now. Let's take a second to check in before we continue. But one pause stopped the conversation from turning into a blame game. It became a productive discussion about what went wrong and how to fix it. Now, I've shared this before. When you name emotions, you take heat out of the moment. And when you take heat out of the moment, you create space for solutions. And finally, encourage expressions. Now, this is where magic really happens. In the past, the same three people dominated every conversation while everyone else stayed quiet, probably saying no one would call on them. The team lead started saying, I would love to hear from folks who have never spoken. And let me tell you, the quietest person in the room turned out to be team's secret weapon. Fast forward 3 months, the team went from feedback purgatory to a full on feedback paradise. Everyone is sharing openly, engagement scores jumped by 30%, and they started producing the best work yet. And the best part, they're laughing together again in meetings. That's what psychological safety looks like. Not just productivity, but connection. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to share one more tool to help you build psychological safety in your team. I have shared purpose factor assessment. Here's the every person on your team is driven by something unique. Some people are fueled by solving problems, others building relationship, and some, well, they are secretly innovators stuck in spreadsheets. So the purpose factor assessment is a tool that helps you uncover what drives and drains you and your team members. When you understand what makes your people tick, you can align their roles with their strengths. And trust me, when people feel seen and valued for their unique contributions, they don't just show up, they shine. Here's what I want you to do. Head to my website after this episode, grab the purpose factor assessment, and DM me to walk you through the assessment for free. It's quick, insightful, and it might just uncover the next big idea hiding in plain sight. Now let's talk about your next step. This week, I want you to try one thing from the SAFE framework. Maybe it's slowing down before a tough conversation. Maybe it's asking a teammate what was going on. Or maybe it's inviting quietest person in the room to share their thoughts. Pick one small step and try it, because here's the truth. Big transformations start with small actions. And when your team feels safe to mess up, speak up, and show up, they don't just survive, they thrive. Remember this, safe teams are unstoppable teams. When you create an environment where people feel safe, you unlock their best ideas, their boldest moves, and their full potential. And it all starts with you. Let's make it happen. This is Singh, and you are listening to Mindful Leadership on the Transformation Network. See you next time.
Thank you for watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives. With me, your host, Singh. We are honored to have you join us on this journey to explore the transformative power of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and authentic leadership. Tune in every week on transformationtalkradio.com at noon Pacific on Tuesdays, where we will continue to explore how mindful leadership can create a ripple effect of positive changes in your life and lives of those you influence. This show is dedicated to helping you lead with purpose, presence, and passion. Whether you're navigating the complexities of business, building strong connection with your team, or striving to make a meaningful impact in the world around you. To learn more about the show, access additional resources, or dive deeper, visit singhpowerupcoach.com. Remember, leadership isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. Let's continue to transform lives together, one mindful moment at a time. See you next week.